Q broadcast, it's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high cable bills and moving away from streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, and others for something better. Q broadcast. For just $60 a month, you'll get access to every channel you could ever want, including HBO, Cinemax, and Stars. And the best part, there are no contracts, no hidden fees, and you're free to cancel anytime. With Q Broadcast, you can enjoy streaming live TV, movies, and top series on up to 5 devices at once. Whether you're at home or on the go, Q Broadcast makes sure your entertainment is always at your fingertips. Imagine being able to watch all your favorite channels from anywhere, anytime, without any restrictions. We're talking about thousands of movies, hundreds of TV series, and a huge library of live channels, all in one place. And don't forget video on demand and pay-per-view events. Those are included at no extra cost, so you'll never miss a big event again. Now, take a second and think about your current cable bill. You're probably paying anywhere between $100 and $300 every month, locked into long-term contracts and hit with surprise rate increases. With Q Broadcast, that's a thing of the past. It's just $60 a month. No contracts, no extra fees, no hidden costs, and no price hikes. Why juggle multiple subscriptions like Netflix, Hulu, and cable when Q Broadcast gives you everything you need in one convenient package? People everywhere are switching to Q Broadcast, saving money and getting more content than ever before. So, what are you waiting for? Click the link in the description and sign up for Q Broadcast today. Just $60 a month, no contracts, no hidden fees. It's time to take control of your entertainment and start streaming smarter.
We live in a world where men are told it's harmless. It's just entertainment. Let's stop lying to ourselves. Pornography destroys. It weakens your spirit. It dulls your drive. And it robs you of what real intimacy is supposed to be. Every click is a step away from the man you're supposed to be. We can't call ourselves leaders if we are slaves to a screen.
As someone that is prior service, I know all about discipline. And discipline isn't out there, it's within your mind. Porn rewires your brain, weakens your will, wrecks all of your relationships. It doesn't just stay on a screen, it invades your marriage, your confidence, and your actual purpose. As men, if we don't learn to discipline ourselves, we'll be ruled by our impulses. Now, it is time to stand up and take control before this silent war takes more than you're willing to lose.
Real men don't hide in the shadows of shame. We step up and we protect what's ours. We fight for our wives and kids, our own hearts. Twitter isn't just an app, it's a weapon. It's a tool used to break free and start living like the man that you're meant to be. The battle's here and it starts with you. You can stop living in shame and you can break free today.
Of Q Broadcast, it's taking the world by storm. People are cutting the cord to their high.
Here at the Anomic Age, we know that these times of uncertainty are stressful. It is incumbent upon all of us to put our fears first and bow down to government tyranny. Gone are the days of freely leaving your home, working, and social interactions. In exchange for safety, we will trade liberty. At the Anomic Age, we understand. However, just in case you want to get off your knees and stop being a sniveling coward, check out the John Age Project at anomicage.com.
Meet Anne Morrissey, who is here with her daughter, Dareth. Dareth is 17 years old. Mrs. Morrissey, I don't have to tell you that most parents would be extremely depressed if their daughter came home one day looking like this. I assume that was your response shock, anger, depression? What was it?
I was extremely angry. I really went bananas.
Yeah, how old was she when this happened?
Possibly 13, 14 years old.
We're talking like it's a disease, and
Well,
yeah. How did she explain it to you, Mrs. Morrison?
there was very poor communication until we went into counseling. And it almost broke up our family. But through counseling and Serena, I can understand it better.
What do you understand?
That she feels like she doesn't want to be like everyone else, and she wants to be her own person. And through the dress code and her lifestyle, she's expressing this. It doesn't conform with our rules, but we're learning to cope, and it's a very, very difficult thing. Extremely difficult.
Dareth, let's let you talk for yourself. You're from Long Beach, California.
I just can't handle being like everybody else because that's what everybody else wants, you know. Just because somebody else does something does not mean that I have to do it. You know, I have my own morals and ideals, and I go by them.
Are you drug-free, Dareth?
Yes, I am.
Is this a political statement then? Do you have some misgiving about the society that you see?
Yeah, there's a lot of problems, you know. A lot of the people are really aware of what's going on, you know, and I don't like it, you know. There's a lot of problems. What? I don't like the way society is based.
What bothers you? Give us some of the misgivings you have.
The rich, the poor, the people starving, the wars, you know. Why can't, you know, everybody just get along and just live their life?
Alan, real and Chevy.
Propagating truth in a world of lies. You are listening to the John H. Project.
Trust no one. Trust no one. Trust no one.
You found it. You're here. You're headlong down the runaway train that is the Anomic Age. And I'm your host, John Age. Happy to be back with you once again, hailing proudly from the coastal plains of the Old North State. We got a great show. We got a guest coming up for you in just a moment. But before we get into that, please check out anomicage.com if you've not already done so. Please like all the likes, subscribe to all the subscriptions. PayPal.me/anomicage, Patreon.com/anomicage as well. That's the best place you can find all things me. Support the channel. You can find every single episode, I believe, like barring one, is all still up there at anomicage.com. So check it all out there at anomicage.com. We got the iPhone app, the Android app. Subscribe by email link, and the social media. The ones that are still up there are still up there. So check those out too. But without further ado, let's introduce our guest today. We got none other than, than Celeste Solum on the Anomic Age today. Celeste is a broadcaster. She is a former government employee with a long history within FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security. She's an organic farmer and is trained in nursing and government and environmental medicine. Celeste chronicles the conditions of space and Earth that triggered the rise and fall of modern and ancient civilizations, calendars, and volatile economic events. That's exactly what we're going to get into today. So we're so excited. Thank you so much, Celeste, for the time. We got your website up on the screen right now. So thank you so much for being with us today.
It's an honor to be here.
And I'm so excited. I was trying to do a lot of background research and stuff before we got going today and last night too. So you were reading my mind. You know, we talked a second before the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, you read the show notes. That's exactly what I wanted to get into today. So I'm so excited to get into that. But I mean, with your rich background, I feel like we could have a lot of conversations on this. I'd love to get into the FEMA and the Department of, Homeland Security and all that stuff too. But I'll start at the beginning here and just kind of ask, because I always wonder this for a lot of people, like, how did you delve into this deep into the pool? Because, I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people, well, a sickness with a family member, or, I woke up from, me personally, like my grandparents and my parents would tell me, these quote unquote conspiratorial events when I was a kid. And I was like, what in the world? You mean JFK? The lone gunman was a bunch of hooey? But what got you into this sort of deep into the bull? What spurred it for you?
So I come from it from a little bit different perspective. So my dad worked for naval warfare. And so we had this plethora of very interesting people that would come to our house. For instance, I came home in third grade and found a submarine, Jacques Cousteau's submarine, in my driveway. And I learned how to use chopsticks by Wally Schirra, the astronaut. And we had these 4 archaeologists in the early 60s come and talk to us. My dad, basically, he wasn't talking to us kids, about the advanced technology that they were bringing out of megalithic civilizations. And that so intrigued me that it stood with me. And it planted the seed, if you will. But what really got it is when I was 5 years old, my dad sat me on his lap and he said, the next genocide is going to happen on your watch. Be ready. And because of all these people that came to our house and what my dad was working on, the things that I was aware of that were not classified, I decided to proceed to get ready, got different skill sets to be ready for this day and age. And then, I don't know, the way my life has unfolded, he took me on this journey, and now I'm here, and I'm actually writing a book that spans time, 12,000 years of technology that ancient man knew, and that we are just now discovering but in a different way. So it's been a long journey, but it's been exciting with lots of, I had to go dark and the whole 10 yards. It's been an interesting walk, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand. I believe anyway, the going dark sort of scenario. I definitely understand what you mean. I think on that one, man, it's kind of a dark walk sometimes when you get into some of this stuff, because I mean, I was watching some with the fam a couple of nights ago, a movie, and I'm the worst person to ever watch a movie with, because I'll just start telling you, this is BS. This is total bunk. This is propaganda. My wife hates this. Like, can you just enjoy the movie for what the movie is? And I'm like, but I can't. It's so in your face. Do you have this problem too?
I have the opposite problem. So I just did a couple days ago that they found DARPA is experimenting with these ceramics that they use in spacecraft they have a coating on them that they're like super strength ceramics. And it ties in, if you've been watching Skinwalker Ranch, they found these materials in the middle of the mesa at Skinwalker Ranch. And they don't know how yet they got there. And yet it's the same DARPA program project. And so I did like a 12 and a half minute explanation on what it was, how it's going to impact us. And really, it's not getting the traction. And so sometimes I think something's really going to go huge. I thought the tie-in with Skinwalker Ranch and the supernatural and the space program and the war and everything, it would be so interesting. But for some reason, it has not taken off. And yet other things that I just slammed together and I think, oh, they're not going to do anything, then, it goes big. And of
Yeah.
course, in 2020, I did go viral when I went out about the World Economic Forum and what was the plan for COVID and how it was going to impact our life. 250 layers at that point. Now it's up to 700. And then a couple weeks later on hydrogel. And that basically put me on the map. And my life got insane after that. Just absolutely insane.
Tell me a little bit about the Skinwalker Ranch thing. I mean, I know about Skinwalker Ranch for years, and I really follow a lot of David Paulides' work. He kind of touches on Skinwalker Ranch occasionally, but I haven't heard about what you just mentioned regarding the ceramics and that sort of thing. That sounds pretty darn intriguing.
It was. So they started covering it, and they did some boreholes at the top of the mesa down to the bottom. Mm-hmm. And then they had an archaeologist there that was going through all the debris that they brought up from the boreholes. And they found these metals and they found these ceramics that had properties that only like NASA uses for spacecraft. And so they couldn't understand and they knew the level of where they came out. I think it was like 33 feet to 85 feet down in the middle of the mesa. Mm-hmm. And so that started in season 6, and they're still working on it in season 7. They found a few more, not as many, because this material has properties that can kind of shapeshift. So if you're not familiar with Skinwalker Ranch, it was a ranch where, there's actually many ranches. Skinwalker's just the most well-known, has a lot of paranormal, just different things that go on. Mm-hmm. So they do, it's a bunch of scientists or a team of scientists that do different experiments. Some are downright dangerous. They've gotten radiation burns from it. Rockets they shoot up, and then the rocket goes off. There's this bubble over what they call the triangle, which is located at the base of the mesa, and it has very unique properties. Like there's a blob in it, so if in some of the experiments it will, whether it's smoke or rockets or drones, it will make everything go schizo. There's mysterious frequencies that only the military uses, and they start their experiment and there's nothing, and then all of a sudden this frequency that only the military has access to uses it. And then, like on the far part of the ranch, they were in the water. I can't remember what experiment that was last season 6. They found a dead animal and they took it to the university. So they always double check. It's not only a team of experts in their own unique fields, but they take it to the university or wherever they need to take whatever they discover to get it vetted. And it turns out that it was a dire wolf. And this is before the news came out that they are breeding dire wolves. It was before that. So now, how did the dire wolf get there? Because it was not a skeleton of a dire wolf. It was partially decomposed, but not fully. So the dire wolf had been alive not too much earlier than that. So that's the type of things. And it's been known even with Indian legends and that sort of thing, that all these strange things happen. But like I said, they did send in Beyond Skinwalker Ranch. I think that's the series of other ranches that had things like cattle mutilations. And of course, there's the UFOs and the UAPs and very strange electrical things that are going on.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people mention or reference this notion of a hitchhiker, where they have these entities that will follow, researchers home and have these terrible interactions with family members and all kinds of, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't want any part of that mess. So
I'm afraid if you go into the rabbit holes that I go into, so I've had 5 assassination attempts since 2020. and it was
Mhm.
directed into weapons, and it was always as I was breaking a major story, and it was retribution, I believe. I mean, I can't speculate, but it was like as it was literally going from me to the alt media to be covered, that's when it would happen. And at one time I was like on the way to the city, so I live a couple hours from any city, and I just got this notion that I needed to get another cell phone. And I'm thinking, why do I need another cell phone? I'm not much of a cell phone person to start with. And this is before all the two-factor authentication, and you know the drill.
Yeah.
And but I know to listen. And so I did. I went to Costco, and it was some hippie guy that he didn't know how to even punch the cell phone into the computer. So I went over to AT&T, so I picked out the phone and I paid for it. And he said, okay, now it's the time that you need to, we need to transfer the data. And about halfway before the city, I knew I had been hit. But I didn't think, I mean, it was the same type of experience that I had been hit before. And so I take out my phone in my purse, because like I said, I'm not much of a cell phone person. And my whole cell phone was cracked. And another time I was going from Bozeman west, and I had done a big interview with two alt media personalities. And I was going about 80 miles an hour, and it was a snowstorm on I-90, and a laser came in the window, and it hit both myself and my dog, who's a golden retriever named Miss Zippy. And we got to the hotel, which was about an hour away, and we stayed in bed for 3 days. We could not move. We were both in so much pain. It basically impacted our kidneys. Neither one of us ate. We literally couldn't move for 3 days. So this is the type of thing, when you go down the rabbit hole, you can expect a little bit of pushback.
Yeah. Thankfully, I don't have any stories quite that crazy, but some odd encounters over the years that you just kind of go, what was that?
Yeah.
It's a short story, but I'll just say I always kind of keep things confidential, but at the place I work, you and I sort of talked about this beforehand, I got a contact from a MARSOC guy from the Marine, special operations sort of people, out of the blue. And I was like, who the flip is this guy? And he just wanted to meet and talk. And I was like, okay. It was the most bizarre conversation I've ever had. It was just kind of like both of us feeling each other out. Like, what do you do? What do you do? Okay, well, in a roundabout being like, would you be interested in basically training our soldiers to collect data? And I said, collect intel. And he's like, oh, no, not intel. I was like, it's intel. But, they run these operations where they have, I'm sure you know this with the FEMA mess, they have like, a fake town, and they'll pay all the townspeople to come in, and then they'll train their soldiers or operatives on data collection and what to do if there's a emergency and that sort of thing. So it was a very, very bizarre conversation. But anyway, nothing like you. Thank goodness. I don't want any lasers. So,
well, you have to be careful. So this is before, well, no, this was the early spring of 2020. This gentleman contacted me, and of course I do organic farm. I grow all my own food. And then I process it and I can it and I make it from scratch. And so this guy said, I want to learn how to organic farm. And I'm the first one to teach people. That's part of what I do.
Certainly.
And so he comes over, and he's got a dress shirt. He's got khaki pants. He's got leather shoes like they came from Italy. And he was taking notes like an engineer. And I go, I'm thinking to myself, this doesn't look like somebody that's
it doesn't line up at all
interested in organic farming. But I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and he came over several times. But right at the same time, there was an intersection, and he was involved in the first direct energy weapon attack that I had. So you have to be careful.
We got to have a little conversation on that at the end, maybe. I'd love to get into the organic farming side of things. But to get to the crux of it, the tentative title of tonight's episode is Technological Death Cults. And I was just kind of pulling all this data together, and I was like, we're living in a technological death cult. And then just to draw some parallels, I was thinking of all these other great civilizations over the thousands of years, and they seem to all be a death cult too. If you look at, the Aztecs, the Mayans, you can go Greeks, Romans, and whatnot, but they all have these weird parallels where they were all at the apex of at least their technological civilization. We seemingly are at that apex of ours. And if you look at so many of these cultures, they just seem to vanish. And I kind of wonder, did they have a whole lot more technology than we're giving them credit for? I'm just not buying that the Aztecs were just, these amazing temple complexes, but they were just these simple people. I'm like, no, that's Boulder Dash. And we touched on Göbekli Tepe, in our correspondence a couple weeks ago, and the same thing. It's like, I failed to buy the baloney that these were just a foraging people. They just had simple farming techniques. I'm just not buying it. So feel free to take that wherever you want to. I know you've got a plethora of data on those things too, and we can sort of just weave in anything you want to.
So what I'm uncovering, and as I'm doing this book, I'm like blown away, because at first my scope was very narrow with just Göbekli Tepe and what I saw and how it interacted with geopolitics right now was amazing. But then, I'm a curious type of person. And so I started to go, well, how does this compare with this? And like you said, different civilizations. Exactly. And did they have this same technology? Has it really been passed down? And I am coming to the conclusion that it has. And I'm going to give all the details. I mean, it is so fascinating that it's unbelievable. But the elite, or the powers that be, I don't like to call them the elite, but the powers that be do tend to gravitate to the evil for some reason. They don't get their vast knowledge and want to use it for the betterment of society. They want to consolidate it into a few families, and that's it. So Göbekli Tepe was no different. And I believe that, so the first couple webinars that I gave on Göbekli Tepe, the intersection of Göbekli Tepe with the biblical, the Bible, is fascinating, because it's where Abraham crossed over from Ur, and it is also only a few miles where Göbekli Tepe is from where they believe Noah's Ark was. And there's a lot of archaeological evidence that Noah's Ark is up in those mountains very close to Göbekli Tepe. And it says in the Bible that Noah built an altar to the Lord. Well, just imagine and there were all the animals, and there's like 55 to 100 animals on the different T-posts at Göbekli Tepe. But the only human that they found so far was this little pot-belly one human, but it wasn't on the T-post. So it really was dedicated to, quote, the animals. So you have to wonder, was this just as time went on and generations passed the information? This is where Noah's Ark and all the animals came out because of a global flood. And, we've got to face it, global floods, the flood story is in all civilizations around the world. Some people want to say, oh, it was just the Middle East region. But no, China has it, everywhere. It has a flood story.
That's true. I know the Epic of Gilgamesh is always the go-to, but you got Native American cultures, you got Mesoamerican cultures. I mean, it's kind of a known thing. What a shift! What a surprise! The Bible's right again. It's wild.
Yeah.
One thing that always struck me when I looked at a lot of these big civilizations is it's kind of, there's always just everything just randomly stopped and everyone's missing. I mean, I love to look at like Cahokia, sort of outside of St. Louis, and then you follow the Mississippi down, there's Poverty Point, and then you keep on going to, Teotihuacan. And the big running theme is these were these great civilizations, and then everything just stopped. And more importantly, everyone just left. And everybody's like, left where exactly? There's no gigantic cemetery with Teotihuacan. There's no gigantic cemetery with any of these sites. So did everybody, get zoomed off into a spaceship? Did they just fade into the ether? We talked about some of this Skinwalker Ranch stuff with the portals and the shapeshifters. Did they do some David Paulides missing 411 and just missing civilizations? I don't know. What's your take on some of that? Because that's always really intrigued me.
So there are portals, and there was a big one in the first 5 months of 2020. But my take on it is, so are you familiar with CIA Bentov experience?
I've
CIA
heard of it, but
program?
not enough to really speak on it intelligently. What's your
Okay,
tell me a little
so what the CIA has been delving into for many years, and I think other cultures did it maybe in a religious context. Of course, CIA wasn't doing it in a religious context, but they are trying to separate our right side of our brain from our left side of the brain. And they started this, I mean, they were building up to it before 2020, but especially in 2020, where they wanted, our right side of our brain is our emotional side of the brain. It's where we're very responsive to subliminal messaging, all this type of stuff. We react without thinking, because the left side of our brain is the part of our brain that thinks rationally. And so right now, people are just, we can see it all over the world, that people are just acting from the right side of their brain. Now, I have an interesting story. Have you ever heard of Mike? And I'll tie it in.
Sure.
Mike the Headless Chicken?
I don't think so.
Okay. So how deep can this go? So I'm going to talk about Mike the Headless Chicken. So about, I don't know if it was the 30s, everybody had a little house and they had a little garden and a couple chickens, you know. Yeah. And on Sunday night, they chopped the head off the chicken and they put it in the pot, and that was their Sunday dinner.
Sure.
Well, this person went, I don't think it was what we would consider a farmer today, but he chopped the head off the chicken, and the chicken just continued to walk around, and the chicken lived. And he pretended like he would go around and try and mate. He bobbed his head. He didn't have a head, but his body bobbed like he was bobbing for food. He had all of the trappings of a chicken without a head. And this chicken lived for 2.5 years. The farmer did take, or the person did take him into road shows and circuses. You can see it on YouTube. So how is this even possible? You know, because he got his head chopped off. You think about all the people that are being guillotined, you know, did they have, you know, how would that be applicable in a day where they might use guillotines? It's because where he chopped it, the chicken still had the primal brainstem. Okay. So that meant that the basic functions of being a chicken he had. Of course, he couldn't eat and he couldn't see, but he still acted like a chicken as long as you have the primal brainstem. And so what the powers that be right now are trying to get down into our primal brainstem and to detach our body and this reality that we know right now and go out of our body and go in touch with other entities. They say reach for the stars, but other entities in other dimensions. So that's what the active game plan of Bentov's Gateway, and it's a Stargate project, they're trying to do. I think that if you notice, civilization follows the same circular pattern over time. And I believe that that's what has happened in previous civilizations. They had similar technology, but different. Like the Mayans had, sophisticated astronomical, they had observatories, they had a fabulous calendar, they had this language. So their technology worked with the earth. Our technology and where we would go when your body is detached from your consciousness or your soul, you would go into something like the metaverse. And that's a synthetic virtual twin. We really don't want to go there. It's more like a prison. As a matter of fact, I can tell you an interesting story on this because I think it's important that people understand. So I do research so that other people don't have to go down that rabbit trail. So one night I went to this site called Generative World Labs, and there was this picture. It looked like if you took a snapshot in your living room and you had a frame picture of a wall. And there was a button, and Celeste is a button pusher. So I pushed the button and it started panning around the house, and it took around. It would be an experience kind of like if you were buying a house remotely and the real estate lady was taking a picture. So it was panning you all through the house. Next thing you know, you go outside and there was the Moab Desert. And then there was a picture of the ocean. As this was happening, I'm very in touch with energy fields. I felt my life force being pulled in. This is on my laptop. I felt it being pulled into the laptop. And then all of a sudden on my screen, it flashed, I want to have access to all your sensors. Yikes. Are you kidding me? All your sensors means every sensor in your laptop, which connects to your phone, which connects to your Siri or whatever, which connects to any nanoparticles that are inside of you, your whole network, how you speak, your preferences, what movies do you watch, what videos do you watch, what don't you like. All of this would be processed by AI. And the reason for it is to make your experience more realistic and personalized as you're going into this out of your body experience. So of course, I'm going to say no. And so I pushed the button and I said no, even though my life force was being drawn in. And all of a sudden it was violent. I got a violent and a force literally pushed me back against the wall. I mean, I slammed against the wall and I go, oh, this is nothing to be trifled with. So that's the type of world that they're envisioning. Of course, the UN is on board with it. In 2024, in September, they really were laying the background that you have rights in the synthetic digital twin that you do not have in your physical original design body. But they're not going to tell you that. they're going to say, oh, there's not going to be violence, there's not going to be trafficking, or, you're not going to suffer deprivation. But that they're talking about, if you go in, because that's their incentive to get you into the synthetic twin, that you go in there, and but you will have those things if you will have trafficking or whatever they're going to do to you in the original design, because they really don't want original design life of any form. I'm talking animals, plants, even microbes. They did that in 1975 at Asilomar. They made that decision.
That's terrifying. I got to speak on this one because it's something, I swear, like everybody I've talked to lately has a similar creepy technology story, but I'll give you like a 30-second of mine. I'm a sucker for like abandoned buildings and stuff like that. And one day I was looking at I can't remember if it was Instagram or something, but it was somebody like, oh, look at this abandoned like mansion in North Carolina, and it's had all the stuff inside. And they panned to like a piece of mail that had the address on it because it wasn't listed. And I was like, oh, okay, that's in Raleigh. Let me just put that into the search engine and see what comes up. I never uttered a word of this. I never, I just thought it. I put it into the search engine and I began typing the first letter of the address. It filled out the rest. And I was like, what the, again, never articulated this, never wrote it down, just thought this. But it just, and this is a random address. This isn't like, the White House or Trump Tower. This is like some obscure address, filled it out like it read my brain. And I was just like, I just walked away. This is creepy. This is just too weird.
It is true. Most of our brains, if you were alive in the 60s, they brain printed the military and the government. So they brain printed us. They can locate you. They don't need GPS. They know where you are. You don't even need to have your phone, because they just look for your genetic code, or they look for your brain print. And have you heard of the book Soul Catcher?
I don't think so.
Hold on.
It's something else I need to read that I'm never going to get to read, I'm sure, but sounds interesting.
Well, here's this Project Soul Catcher by Robert Duncan. And look, I'm a little bit of a fanatic with my little markers. But so Robert Duncan and I had a interview like a couple years ago.
What's his name again? I'm sorry.
Soul Catcher.
No, what's the person's name? Robert
Duncan. And he had worked for all the black places.
Yeah.
And he felt that this book is power packed. You really want to know this information. And he was writing another book, and the government contacted him and said, you can't write this book. And he said, okay, I'll redact anything you want me to. I just want to write my next book. And so that was in the spring, and they assassinated him on July 8th of that year.
Jeez. What happened to him? I mean, I'm sure it was like a car accident or suicide or something like that.
Nobody really knows. We do know that he was assassinated, and that's all we know.
Jeepers.
Yeah. There's some people that they want the media to go out to scare the rest of the people. And there's other people like, we were talking about that just disappear. Which let's go back to the civilizations that just disappeared. So in this CIA Bentog program, and of course they're using frequencies, and all of these different civilizations where they're indigenous, Native Americans, whoever, and they just disappeared.
Yeah.
If they were tapped into that energy, they literally could just go up, their spirit, let's say, or soul would go up into some place and wherever, whatever you believe. I believe in heaven, but not everybody does.
Sure.
But your body could be disintegrated because of the intensity of the frequency that's coming against it. So they could disassociate. It kind of could be like a abduction of type, you know, you're out of here, but your body's left behind. And then because it's such like a nuclear bomb type of a scenario, the frequencies are so that there is nothing left except at the atomic level. And that's the type of technology that DARPA is experimenting with now. That's why we're hearing building blocks and molecular level and atomic level. They're breaking everything down. That's why when you go to your doctor and you've got something kind of vague that would take several, maybe a doctor that knew you your whole life, you know, he'd be able to put his finger right on it. But these days you go into the doctor and because it's at the molecular or atomic level, you have to go to this specialist and that specialist and this, and nobody looks at you as a whole person anymore. So it's a disadvantage to all of us.
Man. Well, so much of this, and I guess the audience is going to know what I'm going to say in a minute, but it's all consciousness. Everything that we're talking about seems to be tied into consciousness. And I feel like that's where a lot of these ancient civilizations are linked up to. They had a higher consciousness. You mentioned the Mayans with these amazing observatories of these, you know, celestial orbs, if you will. But I think consciousness is the key to so much of this. And it seems like the proverbial they are trying to lower the consciousness of the plebs while raising the consciousness of the priest class, aka the elites, you know, whatever spin word people want to put on them today. Does that sound about right to you? And if so, like, how exactly are they doing this? I mean, I could go on a diatribe about how they're doing it with the air, food, water, you know, the media, the social media, but you probably got a better or different perspective on
it. Air, food, water, social media, frequency plays a huge part of it. This year started on January 7th. DARPA introduced a project that is going to change our DNA and RNA expression using light. I mean, and then, so most people are into the paradigm. They're finally the ones that are semi-conscious.
Yeah, that's about right.
About geoengineering. But so the original people in the 90s, when it started coming out, I've been following it all this time and watched the spider webs and the heavy metals and the chemtrail flu and all this kind of stuff. But in 2020, they launched a new weather modification program, but nobody wants to hear anything about it because they're locked into that paradigm. And I can't get them to break out. They won't hear it. They're not interested. No, it's heavy metals. It's these chemtrails. And that's the only thing they're not doing it. And I'm like, there's so much more evidence for, I mean, both programs, but for instance, the second weather modification program that actually started in 2019, the end, and then really in 2020, it worked hand in hand with the event of 2020, if you know what I mean.
Of course.
Whether it's the construct or the treatment, either one. You know, all those big fibers that everybody was talking about. Yeah. Well, guess what this new weather modification program does? It creates those big fibers in all of your body because they want to fill you with soft robotics. So the process is kind of, okay, you got your original design. They're slowly hybridizing us into half part human, part technological, because they only want silicon life on this planet. And then the final stage is they use cavitation, which is frequency, to create these bubbles in your body and space make room for the soft robotics, and eventually they'll just fill you with all robotics. And I mean, I'm against all this stuff, but I've broken a bunch of bones and this and that. I got more screws and plates and artificial knee and all that. I feel like, but my essence is not robotic. But I mean, they're going into the brain. They want your brain. They want your consciousness, and you need to be careful if you're going to go into the medical, because you don't know what they're going to hit you with. And I went to a doctor's office one time and they demanded that I get a brain implant. This is back like years ago. And I'm like, I use my brain. Nobody's touching my brain. I'm going to go out with the same brain that I had. I mean, granted, it's matured through time, but I'm not letting them touch my brain. There's no way. I mean, I would rather die than have them touch my brain. So, but these are the types of things you have, like, how deep do you go into the technology?
Well, it seems like, I mean, we could touch on the Havana syndrome too. I mean, that's something I think nobody even knew about 3 or 4 years ago. And now that's coming into more vogue. But I mean, I swear it just seems like an all-out attack on all fronts. So it's kind of like a giant game of whack-a-mole here where you're, okay, I got organic, but look at those big X's over the house. Okay, I've got no wireless internet, but now we got beams coming out of the sky. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, 5 or 6 years ago, they gave the operational go to hit every man, woman, and child with direct energy weapons. And I think what we're seeing play out in the Middle East is they're going to use up their armament, physical armament, and they have started using direct energy weapons. And I think that's to normalize it.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Havana syndrome is not named Havana syndrome. As of a few weeks ago, it's now Debbie, DEBE. So just so you know, there are some people, if you're government or military, that will get compensation, like a disability or whatever, for being disabled from direct energy weapons, but not the average person. And they did do the carte blanche, every man, woman, and child on planet Earth will be hit. Most of us will never see any compensation from that.
What's up with the name change on that?
Oh, I call it the government semantic shell game.
Okay.
Because people are now aware of what Havana syndrome is, and they want it to go dark again out. And people are not, lots of humanity isn't curious anymore, and they don't, if it doesn't touch your life, you don't follow it. So they just did this. It's always been known as the semantic shell game. So there was a program in 2000 it came from the United Nations to the United States, to all the countries of the world. And it was called the National Animal Identification System. And it came from the UN, and it has 3 pillars. 1, all property, including your body, belongs to the government. 2, mandatory electronic identification of all life. And what are we seeing, even down to the microbial level? And 3, 24/7 surveillance. And when we were fighting it tooth and nail in all the media in 2005 and through 2007. But the public we were still in the United States affluent bubble, and people didn't really want to take action. And so now it's mandatory. And now they changed the name to traceability. So see, what they do is they change the name. And in government, we always did that. We changed the name, and that way it would basically go dark and they could continue what they're doing.
Yep. It's the same old rebranding mess that we've been seeing forever, I guess. Like, oh, it's not high fructose corn syrup anymore. Now it's corn syrup. Or, it's the same nonsense, I swear.
Yep.
So you think we're definitely going to see a ramping up of sort of this continued pincer attack as we move forward in the coming years, right?
Yes. And more people are getting, I don't know if it's touched your life. I know that it's touched my life, that people before 2020 connected with each other.
Yeah.
Whether it was a letter, whether it was a phone call, whether it was getting together for lunch, going to church, whatever, sports, whatever you got together. Now you can go a year without hearing anybody. And they've managed to break the connection of the social cohesion. And as I'm finding with this work I'm doing on Göbeklitepe, that was by design and can be done with frequency, is to break the social cohesion. And they have accomplished that. So even if you're in a bad way, I mean, people just do not reach out like they used to.
Yeah. I mean, I've been talking about this for a while. In the social science world, they call it social capital. It's basically like, okay, if your hot water heater goes out, can you call somebody to help you? If you get a flat tire, I just don't think we have that anymore. And all the studies prove that, people have more friends, quote unquote, than ever, but they're all somewhere in the nether world. They're not necessarily living nearby. They're not somebody you're going to go have a cup of coffee with or go out to dinner. Everything you said, that cohesion, I think, is completely lost. And I don't know if it's coming back. I mean, I tend to be a little dark side of the force, but I just don't see it happening.
No, I'm not, like I said, I have to deal with technology because of what I do.
Yeah.
But I'm not hooked in like other people. And when I went viral, as they say, in 2020, I had millions of followers. And then I got the old, that was before the social media really put the squeeze on with censorship and shadow banning and all of that. Well, then that started. And these people are here today and gone tomorrow. And I've reached out to people that I know in the virtual realm if I had need or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're just plain not there. I mean, it's different when you have a face-to-face friend. It's harder for them if you say, I have a need, would you please help me split wood this week? And you're standing right there. It's harder for you to say no. I'm not going to do it, but it's very easy on the internet. You can say, oh, I didn't get the message. I'm going to ghost you, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you may think you have a lot of friends, but you really don't have friends. It is virtual and they're not real.
Yeah.
Now you might be the exception. There's a few people that go viral and some tragic thing happened to somebody, is a car accident or something like that. And then people will donate. I know. So my husband was killed 10 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In a Princess Diana type thing.
Good grief.
And so a friend did a GoFundMe. I got $70.
Nice.
That was my worth, $70 for everything that I've been doing for decades. It's like, I'm thankful that I'm very resilient and I have a good grounding in myself.
Yeah.
That it didn't matter. But I think of the people that are just devastated, something tragic like that happens because it was out of the blue, it was not expected. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm thankful that my path went well after it. Although, when you lose the love of your life, it's, you just have that hole inside. You do heal, but you still have that hole inside.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I mean, it's just something I've touched on a lot lately. I feel like I'm not trying to, but it just seems so obvious that a lot of people, I think, in the, I don't even know what you want to call it anymore, liberty community, conservative, whatever. I think there's a big blind spot because everybody, I think, knew about Operation Mockingbird and that all the mainstream media was bought and paid for. But then, at least in my opinion, in the last 5 years or more, there seems to be a heck of a lot of really well-funded people in the alternative community that seem to just, where'd this person come from? Like $1 million studio, 10 million views, like 20 sponsors. And I'm going, that's convenient. Like, I'd like some of that windfall. How do you get in on that scam? I mean, we know, I think, how people get in on that scam, but it's just, I don't know. It seems to be a real blind spot in the community or whatever you want to call it, that people are like, oh yeah, like this guy's he's got the goods all of a sudden. Are you experiencing any of that, or is it just me?
Yeah, so in 2020, I did experience the portal. You are at a level that you are then a designated influencer. And that's why they wanted to take me out, because I was a designated influencer, not in the way they wanted me to be, though.
Yeah.
So what you're seeing right now is they have weeded out a lot of the grassroots researchers like myself that will tell the truth of whatever the research says. We don't go into it with a preconceived idea. We actually, like when I go into a project, never in my a million years would I have thought that I was going to end up with this project with Göbeklitepe and the frequencies and across the different civilizations and how it's been passed down. But I can tell you there was adoration, and I did not want that. And I prayed and I begged God. I said, take this away. I am not doing this for adoration, because adoration is a hook in you and it sways you into a place you don't want to go. And I knew it, but I had all these people like, they're going to just be your best friend and blah, blah, blah. And they're throwing everything at you. And I was like doing back-to-back interviews and my phone never stopped ringing.
Yeah.
But after I prayed for about a week and a half, that was really when the direct energy weapon first one happened. And then it stopped. Then people started doing hit pieces on me. And so I was no longer a designated influencer. I was the opposite. I was somebody to be eliminated at all costs. Even to this day, there are platforms, half of the platforms will not have me on. They consider my content dangerous because I give the sources and I let the people know where they can find it. They don't have to believe me. It's not my opinion. You go, you can look at it. I give you the sources. And so it just all faded away. Now I have a couple hundred people from the millions that I touched in 2020. But am I sorry? Not at all. Because that's how, and then it scares me when people are following these people with the 10 million, blah, 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 because you know that they are bought and sold, and most of them have sponsors. And when you have sponsors, your paycheck is beholding. You will have guests that fit in alignment with what your sponsor wants, not maybe what you want. Do you remember the old days of Art Bell?
Yes. Oh my goodness. You're reading my brain again, Celeste. You're reading my brain again.
Yeah. So Art Bell, quit Coast to Coast because he wanted to be free and explore things that Coast to Coast did not want to explore. And then John B. Wells also left.
Yeah.
So it's part of our journey when you are really a truth seeker. But most people just say, oh, it's the person with the 10 million views these days is the one with the truth. And, they're the real deal and all this. And it's just like, I shake my head and, I'm comfortable and I've been there, done that, and I would never go back.
Yeah, I won't mention names on any of this, but there's so many people out there that I've listened to over the years, and I'm like, man, I'm 98%, and then that last 2% is the most, like, the record scratched, and it just went, what the heck was that? That's not in any way congruent with what I'm talking about, like, or thinking, or anything else. But I think that's probably why.
Well, and with this degradation of the social cohesion, is that even you can, in your personal life, have friends, 40-year friendships or longer, or your 20-year friendships, and all of a sudden they flip.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they've gone to a different alternative universe.
Yeah,
and you go, where did they go? This is a person that you've spent a lot of time with, that you've interacted with, and all of a sudden the script is flipped, and you have nothing in common, and they're coming against you and attacking. It's that comes with the breakdown of social cohesion. But we have to put it in context. We can't blame it all on the powers that be or this technology. We are in that period of time. There's a real provocative paper that talks about the solar cycles and the rise and fall of civilizations and currency, mythology, belief in a higher power, literacy, writing, expression, science and technology follows the rise and the fall of the 11-year solar cycle.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. So we've got that. And that's when China fell, is when the solar cycle was transitioning, which is what we're in a transition right now, from a very active solar cycle to a quiet time. And you think, oh, good, it's quiet. We're not going to have auroras. We're not going to have the sun shooting solar flares at us.
Yeah.
But just think about flatline at a hospital. If you see you've got an EKG that's flatline, it means you're dead. And people can have a lot of physiological problems in a flat with no solar activity, as well as whole societal problems that occur as a result of a solar minimum.
Yeah, I don't even know if we got time to talk about it, but I was going to bring that up again. You read my brain, Celeste, but I was going to say, I've heard anecdotal people talking about this, but I swear it's the same darn thing. The sun, in my humble opinion, seems vastly different than it was when I was a kid. Again, born in the 70s, and here I am, but it just seems to be a very white light now, juxtaposed when I was a kid and outside all the time. It seemed to be that orange sun that you saw in the cartoons. It seemed to be this orange, electric energy. And now it seems to be very white and just kind of hurts your eyes. I don't feel like it hurt my eyes when I was a kid, but now I'm guessing we're in a different solar cycle, which could be good or bad news for us.
So everything, even the planets in the solar system, is dynamic. And so the sun's very chemistry is changing.
Yeah.
Our Earth's chemistry, the atmosphere is changing. Part of that is the natural process, and part of it is that powers that be that are messing, like HAARP and all that the different gases and stuff that they play around with. But we also are hit right now with the galactic electric current sheet. That is a burst of energy from the center of the universe. And when it hit our two nearest stars, they started popping off like a 4th of July celebration. And then as it's gone through the planets, every planet has had different symptoms. It's just like if you get a cold, your wife might get a different, might get the same cold, but maybe she has a headache instead of a sore throat. And then your child has the aches and not the fever, that type of thing. So every planet has been hitting it. Well, it's at us right now, between us and the sun, and actually some of it's already touching the sun and changing the actual chemistry and physics of the sun itself. So what you're experiencing is very real. It is. And then even our atmosphere has changed what the different particulate levels. If you're interested, I did an article called Particles of Destruction, and that's at solutionreport.com about all this particulate stuff that we're having to deal with and trying to make sense of it.
That sounds amazing too. Well, we got to do this again, Celeste. I swear we got about a stack of more information to get into. I still got to talk to you at some point about this farming thing, the organic farming, because, it's not getting any better out there. So where can everybody go to support you? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to talk over you.
Just quickly. So if you're going to do organic farming right now, 2 recommendations I have is raise beds and do greenhouses to the best of your ability. Like I've got 5 greenhouses because of all the stuff that's in the sky. You don't want it, and get a filter for your hose. And so those are some ideas. And then one day we can talk gardening.
Yes, by all means, we need to. That sounds great. I know your website's going to be on the screen here, but is there any other places people can go to find you and your work? I know you got a lot of stuff going on.
Well, celestialreport.com is my main website. I am on YouTube as they let me. Sometimes I cross the line that I don't know I crossed and they take my stuff down, but so it's there when it's there. I'm also on Rumble, BitChute, X. So those are the places that I'm on that allow me to be on.
Yeah, I can understand that, for goodness sakes. Well, if you'll stick around for a second, I'll close things up and talk to you at the end.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much again for your time. It's been amazing. All right, folks, if you missed any of that, shame on you. Good news is you can go to anomicage.com. No matter what you might happen to be listening to and or watching this on, you can go to anomicage.com. It's on the screen right now. You can get all things me. You can get all the guests, all the short information breakdown segments that I still am doing. The iPhone app, Android app, it's all right there for you, so you can take me with you wherever you might want to go. As I always say, you can't do everything, but you can do something. So get out there, do your part, make a difference, and I'll be seeing you sooner than later in the Anomic Age.
Thank you for listening to the Anomic Age, a John Age project. For past shows, further info, and to comment, go to anomicage.com. That's ANOMICAGE.com. Till next time, thank you for listening to the Anomic Age.